Welcome to another one of Sybil's Teacher Tip videos. Today we're going to focus on our 5th grade weather student activity pack. Our first activity is called Weather Log. Students have the opportunity to look at weather data collection and the different variables that are part of that. So each day, students will get a chance to record different variables such as temperature, pressure, wind and wind speed, current conditions, and then precipitation rate. They'll keep track of that for about a week. After doing that, the second part is getting the students a chance to look at different weather maps. They're given a specific website to go to and then given the chance to look at, well, what do you notice about the map and what the current conditions are? We just want students to start asking questions about weather, what's going on, see if they can make any correlations. Our second activity is called the Weather Predictor Wheel. For this, students will need their 2 sheets of paper and their brass fastener. All they need to do is punch out the top and the middle wheel and then attach it to the barometer reading. The very first part is we're going to explore reading barometric pressure. You're going to take your weather predictor wheel, just like I have, and we're going to practice. So the students are going to take the steady arrow and move it to the west direction, and then only at the bottom they want to look to find a number that would predict rain. So if we look, number 1 predicts rain. So let's find number 1. To do this, students will just move the top. If you notice, my one finger is holding the steady and I'm just moving the top. As soon as the forecast number reaches number 1, we can stop. Students should write down the barometric reading. What number do they see? Okay. Now students are going to look at the bottom and find a number that is clear. If we look, number 10 is genuinely clear. So keep the steady in the west and only move the top until we get to number 10. Students should then write down the barometric reading. And what do they notice? You can do this multiple times so that students get an idea of what's going on when there's low pressure, what's going on when there's high pressure. The second part, we're going to look at the change in barometric pressure. Once again, we're going to use our wheel. We want to move our top wheel so that the forecast number says 14. Once we have that, we're going to move both of the wheels together so that the top arrow is in the reading zone and the wind arrow is in the wind direction. If you notice, there's a couple different ways that this works. So students will have the option to record their findings. What is the barometric pressure? Where's the direction of the wind? Is the barometric pressure rising, falling, or staying steady? And then what season did they choose? The third part of the activity is a challenge. They're going to move both the wheels and set them to where it would indicate the weather will get worse or raining. As always, make sure the barometric arrow is in the reading zone and the pressure tab is in the wind direction zone. Once they have that, students should record the reading from the weather prediction wheel. They'll then repeat this process, but we're going to change the predictions. Can they find for when it predicts the weather will be clear in this afternoon, it will get snowy this afternoon, or changeable weather with rain? The fourth part of this activity is the weather prediction. You will want to record the following data before 9 a.m. The direction of the wind, barometric pressure, and whether the barometric pressure is rising, falling, or staying steady. There are typically arrows to indicate that it's rising or falling. So today I did that. And here in Durham, North Carolina, our barometric pressure is 30. It is increasing, and our wind direction is going northeast. So, since I know that information, we are now going to use our predictor wheel. I said that our pressure was rising. So I'm going to find our rising tab, and it's summertime, and I'm going to place it on the direction of the wind. I said that it was going northeast, so I'm going to move it to the northeast. There we go. Now the barometric pressure was right at 30, so I'm going to hold that middle wheel and just move the top wheel so it says 30, and look at my number. You can see I have a number 11. So for this afternoon, it's saying that it should be clear over a large area. Let's see if this afternoon is clear. Students, write down the prediction and then observe what is happening, what's going on. Compare it to your local forecast. The third activity is called weather tanks. This gives students an opportunity to explore the water cycle. With this, they're going to need their 2 deli containers. They're going to take 2 small cups and a medicine. The third activity is called weather tanks. This gives students a chance to explore the water cycle. They will need their 2 deli containers, 2 of the small cups, and their medicine cup for measuring. The first part is we're going to explore open and closed systems. So we're going to take our 2 containers, set them down flat. We're going to take our measuring cup and measure out 15 mLs and put it in one of the small cups. Measure another 15 mLs, put it in the other small cup. And then we're going to place the small cups into the deli containers. You can use tape if you want to put on the bottom of the small cup so that it doesn't move around the container, but that's not required. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to seal one of our deli containers. Okay. We'll take this and set it outside near a window somewhere where it can receive sunlight. So I've had these sitting outside for about 45 minutes. You can see on the one that their water is directly above the small cup and it's trapped inside of the deli container. Versus the open system, there is no water. This is a great way for kids to start thinking about Earth and the Earth's atmosphere and how our closed system represents the Earth's atmosphere. What would happen if the Earth didn't have an atmosphere? What would happen to the water? Great way to start thinking about it. When they're done, they will open up their deli containers and dry out all the materials. For part 2, we are going to look at how temperature impacts the water cycle. For this activity, beforehand, you want to make sure that you freeze some water in the extra small cups that were given to you. To set this up, you're going to want your 2 deli containers, your 2 cups of water. We're going to place them in the container. This time we're going to close both of the containers. But on one of the containers, we are going to place our cup with ice and let that sit. This has only been sitting here for about 10 minutes, and you can see that water starts to form underneath the ice quite quickly. Those students should notice that the water is only forming underneath the ice in the closed container. The other container, even though it's closed, the water is not moving as fast. This is a great way to show that cold air pockets cause that water vapor to condense into clouds. So that little area under the ice cube is a great way to describe the... Continuing on with this part, students now get to make a prediction using the information that they have. What do they think would happen if they place 3 or 4 cups with ice on top? Allow them to do that. Then they can take their results and compare it to the prediction. The third part of the activity is looking at the effects of surface area on the water cycle. To set this up, we're going to use our 2 containers again. In one, we'll keep our cup just like the original setup, but in the other, we're going to dump that 15 mLs out into the bottom of the container. We're going to seal them both. And then place them in a windowsill outside once again. This is going for about 30-40 minutes, and as you can see, the one where we dumped out the water has a larger amount of water on the lid. This is a great way to describe that areas of water that come in on contact with the land are going to produce a lot more evaporation. So, great way to start talking about lakes and ocean and the evaporation rates from both. Our 4th part is looking at dirty water, or looking at substances that are in water. What happens to them during the water cycle? So we're going to have our 2 containers. In one of the containers, we're going to have just our regular 15 mLs of water. In the second container, I'm going to seal that first one. In the second container, we're going to add some dirt. You can also do food coloring if you'd like, but we recommend using dirt first. We're going to add 15 mLs of water and stir that around to get our dirty water. We'll place it in the container. We're going to put both of them once again in the windowsill or outside and let the students observe. These have been going for about 30 or 40 minutes. You can see that there is, on both containers, there is some condensation right above the small cup. But what we want students to notice is that the water itself is clear on the surface. Anything that is dissolved in the water obviously does not get evaporated out. This is a great way to start talking to students about that. The final part is for students to see how salt water is influenced in the water cycle. So instead of having dirt in the small container, they're going to add a little bit of salt and then allow the 2 systems to run again. Before they run the systems, ask them to make a prediction. What do they think is going to happen? Once they run the system, they should see that once again the water evaporates and the salt is left behind. Have them compare their results to their prediction. And that is our 5th grade weather student activity pack.